Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this Darwin Incident Episode 2 reaction. Last time on the Darwin Incident, I guess we started the show, we met Charlie, who is the humanzee, who is a mix of human and chimpanzee, I assume. We met, oh god, I don't know if I can remember any of the character names. We met his family, his mum and dad, who are super cute and seem to care about him a lot. It's very, very cute. He went to school and saved a girl from a tree, whose name I don't quite remember. Was it Lucy or was that from Cyberpunk Edge Runners? I don't know. There's some girl that he saved. And there was a whole philosophical thing that at least I had thinking about the show, which is like Charlie basically takes a butterfly from a spider's web, and then his conclusion from that is that he took away the spider's food. And then there's the whole plot line of the, I think the title of this episode, whatever it was, the Animal Liberation Alliance, the ALA, I think, which was the group of vegan terrorists, seemingly. And I had a great theory that the leader of that group, or one of the people involved in that group, not necessarily the leader, is Charlie's dad. So let's just watch it, and then we'll talk about it in the discussion. It's a flashback, I guess. Oh no, it's footage of the school. So I guess it is the same organization. Or maybe they're just using the name, like I said last time. Oh no, is this gonna blow up? This seems like a bad thing. Bad omen. Oh no, that guy was a terrorist. Go, get out of there. Rip. So this is a flashback to the last episode? Ay, ay, ay. We hate the ALA. I love this opening. I have listened to it so much between last episode and this episode. So it does take place in America. Okay. Is he part of the group, I wonder? Surely not. Her name was Lucy. Oh my god, I'm a genius. Oh no, poor Charlie. I mean, I don't blame them. Like, his origin was with that organization, right? Is the dad... Are we meant to be suspicious of the dad? Oh, it's probably a good idea. Oh, he wants to go because the girl's there? He can take care of himself, I'm sure. It is interesting how unbothered he is by the people around him and their opinions. Uh-oh. Absolutely. Oh, I was gonna say absolutely not, but it's possible. They are the villains, but his philosophy is interesting. It could go either way. He's so unbothered, I love it. Well, at least on the surface, we don't really... He doesn't express his emotions much. He should have an opinion on it. It is interesting. Like, he doesn't really think of himself as a vegan, right? He only eats the food because his parents give it to him. Jesus. Oh my god, we got an anti-work guy. Wow. I guess it is in America. This makes sense. True. Oh my god. Oh, they are humans. You probably have a preference for your own race, right? Oh my god. Maybe this bully guy is not as good. I think I was giving him too much credit last episode. But he did de-escalate the situation. Oh no. He's gonna get followers? Oh, he's like part of the people in... He wants to work for the ALA or whatever. He sees him as a symbolic leader. Oh, is social media going to be a big part of this? This is a more modern story than I was expecting. I had no idea that ants asexually reproduce. Cute. Bro, the cars in this, they travel so weirdly. They look like they're going so fast. What happened 10 years ago?
急いで駆けつか病院送りにされたんだ。当時5歳のたった一匹の
I
類
mean,
人猿に
I can believe that. Why did he kill? Why did he like attack them?
死人こそ出なかったものの、7人は全員警察を
Oh, so I guess they were they trying to kidnap him or something?
がなかろうが、あのクリーチャーは危険すぎる。
I think it's more likely the police are connected to them
この世に決してあってはならない。
because he attacked 5 police officers who may have attacked
は
him.
い、チャーリー、調子はどう？
Oh,
チャ
how
ッとす
cute.
るのに用なんていらないの。
さんが車庫入れに手こずってるのを見て壁にぶつけたっぽい。
Real.
だ
It's a bit suspicious.
鈴子の生徒さん
Oh, okay.
あなた
Oh, that's the guy from the ALA.
それはマックス。よろしく。じゃあ君
Max.
ヒューしていると思う。ルーシ
It's a bit creepy. Knows her name.
ー。あるのは君の名前では話してるのを見かけてね。たまたまの偶
In
然
the abandoned park that had trees all around it.
聞きたい人がいるなら安心だ。
Hmm.
万華鏡の目をした女の子。
What? What a guy. He just walks away, putting a hat on in his little
その
suit.
男だけどもうそこに行くし。
Hmm. Whoa. Oh my god.
誰とやりとり
What a transition.
友達？
Wow, he has a
友
friend.
達って
Aww.
すごいチャーリー。本当なのね。しかも女の子？何年生？どこに住んでる子？
I'm gonna be very
どんな
sad if
やり
these
とり
parents
して
ever
るの？
die.
の友達なのかなって気になって。見れば？
Oh my god. No concept of privacy.
結論から言うと、そのような人物はここには在籍していない。
本当？チャーリーのママね。喜んで。
I'm nervous. Oh, I thought she was gonna die or something for some reason.
終わった。
Oh my god.
超楽しみ。
Things are too happy right now. I'm very concerned.
チャーリ
僕の。
Oh, he's like biological
生物
mother.
上の母親。
Wow. What a weird feeling that must be.
生きてたのね。チャーリーを産んだチンパンジー。
So that was another interesting episode. I'm actually still enjoying this show quite a lot. So I took a little break after I watched it and I wrote a few notes, so I have a few things to say. So the first thing is that this show is all about veganism, like truly. Obviously the activists are vegan. There's a lot of philosophical kind of talk about veganism and vegan arguments that even Charlie was making about how like you shouldn't necessarily, to be morally consistent, then you shouldn't be prioritizing one race over another, because if you value avoiding suffering, then you should be doing it universally and not just for humans. But you know, it's interesting. It's going very deep in this vegan kind of route, which you don't typically see in shows like this. So I'm curious where it's going to go, if it'll go any deeper or if it's kind of gone as deep as it will go and maybe more of the vegan stuff will be more surface level. But the show is doing multiple things, I think, in this regard, which is a bit more than you would see on the surface level. Like on one hand, we have the explicit mentions of the vegan kind of talking points, like for instance, that argument that Charlie was having with the bully guy. But on the other hand, you also have the entire episode itself opening with a kind of a demonstration of selective empathy, like played to us, the audience, where we're watching the same scene that we saw last time, but we're following it through the perspective of a kid who is going there, or a child to someone who is a mother, and we see him die and we feel really bad about it, and obviously all the people in the world feel bad about it, and we're like, oh no, a kid died. But it's meant to, obviously the point of this scene is to demonstrate the selective empathy we have, right? We don't feel the same way when the kids of like animals die or something like that, and this is like the point of the ALA, right? Like they're meant to be trying to make that point here. Well, I guess they're not necessarily trying to make the point here, but they're trying to point out, I guess, the hypocrisy in humans, right? Now, whether this will be made more explicit, like later on, whether we'll be calling back to this story about the child, or whether it was just like a kind of meta thing that the audience is like meant to pick up on, I'm not sure, but I guess we'll find out. But that's the first thing. Show's all about veganism. Interesting. The other thing is that this show is a lot more modern than I was expecting, and I think I definitely said this in the reaction. So firstly, we get the opening scene with the kid getting killed in the terrorist attack, and then there's like a bunch of social media reactions, which, you know, isn't that surprising. Like I've seen other shows do that before, but you know, it doesn't make it feel a lot more modern. Now, the other thing the show does that makes it feel a lot more modern is something that I've never seen another show do before, and perhaps it is only because this show takes place in America, but it has a representation of the modern anti-woke movement, which is interesting. Like, and if I guess if you're somehow not familiar with anti-woke and woke and all that, these were the two people who were, I guess, the two bullies, I suppose you would say. Or what was her name? I wrote her name down. Mia's friends. Also, I like Mia. Mia's really, she's a background character. Like, she hasn't really done much. She hardly ever shows up. But whenever we see her, she's always like saying something funny or is very empathetic, and you know, we like her, so Mia's pretty great. But I'm talking about Mia's two friends, where they're basically just talking about all the common anti-woke talking points about minorities being bad and ruining society, and how everything is going bad now because we can't say Merry Christmas anymore. You know, all the typical like level 1 anti-woke talking points. You know, it was very funny. I've just never seen a show like this that kind of embraced this as a set of characters here. So that was very lovely. And I guess talking also about these two bullies, I know last episode I said, man, this bully guy, he may be a bully, but he's also got a good heart. You know, like he left Charlie alone last time. He left him alone this time and like de-escalated this conversation. But I'm actually not sure if I'm meant to be empathetic to him, or if I'm meant to like be giving him such a fair shot, or if he is actually just a generic kind of bully character. Because I don't know, there's just something about him where I'm like, this guy doesn't seem evil, or at least doesn't seem like a typical like unforgivable bully. But at the same time, he is like painted as an anti-woke kind of hating minorities, hating the Christmas, which is all meant to be like people that we're not meant to like, right? So I don't know, it's interesting. Am I giving too much charity to this bully character? I have no idea. But the final thing about the modern elements of this show is when Lucy and Charlie are sitting on the log and they're going through all the social media stuff, which is literally just Twitter, you can see. And there was like one message that particularly stood out, which was there was someone who was saying, like, it was basically someone who tweeted telling other people to stop posting suspect pictures because they were like muddying the waters with all these people who weren't suspects but were like being proposed as suspects. I was like, man, that's like super real. Like people do that in real life on social media. So it's very modern, you know, very modern feeling, this anime. Kind of surprising. Now, the other interesting thing about this episode is Charlie himself. He continues to be very interesting of a character. Firstly, he continues to be very unexpressive. He basically never expresses any emotions on his face, which is very interesting. And he seems very unconcerned with society. But he does enjoy going to school. That was very surprising to me, the fact that he wanted to go back. Well, it kind of depends on where the story is going. If it is going to be a more conventional story, then I could imagine this being a very conventional kind of storyline of him like enjoying human connection and being like, man, I love being around people and I like Lucy and blah, 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 and I want to go to school because of that. But if it's an unconventional story, then it is very surprising to me, I guess, that he enjoys going to school. Because he does have the whole lack of connection to society thing, and also his veganism thing about eating humans. And it's kind of like, where does he fit in? Like, how does school fit into this? And like, what does he think about the other humans at school? Like, would he be okay with eating them? Like, it's stuff like that where I'm like, oh, I don't know. Is it going to be a conventional route or is it going to be more unconventional? Where maybe he'll enjoy going to school because it's interesting, like what he's saying to Lucy. Maybe one day that interest will fade and he won't be interested anymore. And it'll be kind of like, he will understand the core of the human spirit and maybe it'll be rotten and he'll become one of the ALA or something like that. But I don't know. Charlie is interesting. There's two elements to his character that I think is particularly interesting when it comes to the vegan premise. One of them is that Charlie is very clearly, this is the obvious kind of symbolism here, he's the middle ground between a human and an animal, right? He's someone who's not necessarily biased towards either case, right? He's not going to be a human who selectively is empathetic toward the animals, and he's not going to be an animal who doesn't have the capacity to be empathetic towards humans, right? He's like in the middle there, symbolically, and literally, but obviously the symbolism is important here. The other element that ties into the veganism is that he is someone who seems to have no assumptions or preconceived notions about society and the world around him. And the clearest example of this is that he has no desire for privacy, which is like unquestioningly handing over his phone to his parents so they can see the conversation he's been having with this girl that he likes, his friend who's a girl, you know? Yeah. And like this leads him to arrive at the classic vegan arguments about like the selective empathy and the like name the trait of like there's no difference between humans and animals and the thing we really care about is suffering. Like he arrives at all that from first principles, which, you know, is interesting. So we like that. Charlie, what an interesting character. Now, the real question is, what will happen when he interacts with the ALA? Like, he's not philosophically opposed to them. If anything, he probably would agree with them. So I could even imagine him being on their side for a little bit, or even just like kind of because he finds it interesting, or like he doesn't really question it too much, and maybe he'll just go along for the ride a little bit and then get bored of it and go back to like his school life or something like that. But I could imagine that. This isn't like a story where typically you would imagine, okay, so the main character, like he's interesting, he's got powers or something, and some evil organization wants to kidnap him, and therefore what's going to happen is they're going to kidnap him, but you're going to find out that he actually doesn't like their organization, and he's going to beat them up and win and leave. But I feel like there's a very good chance that he might actually just join them because he finds it interesting. So I don't know, I guess we'll see. Now, another miscellaneous note I have is that I'm very worried about Charlie's family. Now, this was a thing that I wasn't really concerned about at all until like the ALA started talking about plans and they're like tracking Charlie's movements and everything. And in this final scene, it all seemed a bit too like happy, and like Lucy's talking about going to have dinner with the family. And I'm like, well, I don't know about this. Like this just seems like red flags and stuff. There was also the thing I said earlier about in the reaction about the dad or being suspicious of him and thinking that he might be part of the ALA or something. I don't know. It was just because he seemed a bit nervous early on, but I don't think I believe that anymore. But it was, you know, a thought that crossed my mind. Now, this leads me to my final note here, which is about the final scene in this episode, which I thought was very, what do you call it? I guess both emotionally and like psychologically like provocative, where it's like, man, Like, you think so much about your parents. Like, they are the people who raised you. They are the people who you came from. Without them, you wouldn't exist. You know, they love you so much, blah, 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 blah. But what if your parent was incapable of communicating with you? What if your parent didn't raise you? What if what if your parent was an animal in a research institute? Like, it is just, I don't know, it just makes me, it's weird. Like, what a weird thing that would be to confront the parent that you came from, and they're treated as lesser than you, and they're treated as like a research subject, and you can't communicate with them, and they look at you, but they don't really see you. They might not even know that you came from them. It's like such a weird feeling, and I thought that was very interestingly portrayed, so I like that. I think the music really carried that scene particularly. Now, my final note is about the production, which, now that I've seen 2 episodes, I can confidently say that this isn't a very good looking show. Like, I think it's like serviceable, but I'd say it's probably a bit below average. However, for me, average is like watching all the mainstream shonen stuff. So, you know, like, I would probably liken this to something like A Sentence of a Bookworm, or like slightly maybe worse than that, where it's like the characters are like a bit off model sometimes, where it's like, man, they look a bit weird here. And sometimes you'll have the same scene and you'll cut to a different angle of the characters and they look a bit different. And it's like, oh, I guess we're not really keeping consistency here. And there's no particularly interesting shots or storyboarding or directing choices or anything like that. Like, it's very plain. The music is good for the most part, like especially that scene at the end with Charlie's mother, Eva, or Eve, or whatever her name was. Like, that was I guess the music was well done, but yeah, to be honest, the production isn't that good. But yeah, that's the Charlie Incident, episode 2. See you next time.